too big.
Got both sizes.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure.
Okay, thanks. The big ones are too big, but the other ones are perfect. Okay. This is what I need.
Is that enough?
It is now. 30 seconds.
I wish she would. She'd have a lot into it. I've been on that.
I did Charleston. I see her off and on, not regular.
Yeah. She's working for the paper. Yeah.
Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Okay.
They all sing and play. They have a wonderful movie they did I showed you early no, but it's one.
You ain't get that. We doing that. Yes. I ain't holding that dog. They back up under the security. They go to sleep.
How far back can you
That's very interesting. One says that Appalshop is one says
Hey, come on in.
there's a chair besides the Arlen.
And I'm the coordinator for the Seedtime Festival and the Performing Arts program here. And I'm not going to claim I know exactly what it is we're doing, but that's sort of the beauty in doing something like this. It's a celebration. The third edition of the book Voices from the Mountains that Guy and Candie Carawan came out with several years ago is out. And we thought it was a good time to celebrate, to pay attention to some of the things that were going on in the 60s and 70s that were represented in that book, both in terms of cultural work and social justice work, and maybe to bring some folks together that are involved in things now and just have a conversation with each other. Share what our experiences have been, share what we think some of the lessons have been, and do that in a number of ways. You know, if people want to get up and preach, they should preach. If they want to sing a song, they should sing a song. If they want to read a poem, they should read a poem. Or if they just want to talk quietly, do that too. So, again, welcome you. I hope you can stay for a whole lot of the festival. The whole rest of the weekend is going to be wonderful too. We're getting a good start. I want to introduce to you here Mike Klein. For those of y'all who do not know him, is going to act as our facilitator, and he's been, I hate that word actually. What Mike's job is to make sure that everybody that wants to say something, sing something, or preach something gets to do it. So that's what he's going to be doing, and he's been active in this region for more years than he wants to remember, so I'll just let him get up and do what he's going to do.
Thank you, Jim. It's really
really nice to be here and to see this great reunion of people who I've seen individually from time to time over the years, but to see a group like this gathered together again, all in one place, it does my heart good. And I thought maybe we could go around the room quickly and just tell who we are, and maybe a word or two about what brought us back here today. And just let's go around the room. Let's start with my old friend here. I know you. This is Buck Maggard.
When I hear, well, of course I work here, and, you know, I would be here anyway, but regardless of where I'd been today and heard that this group was going to reassemble, or I would have certainly made every effort in the world to get here. And I guess I got in by the back door by being here. But anyway, going back over the years, I was active during the 60s and the 70s, not only with things here in eastern Kentucky, but the civil rights movement as well, and the Poor People's Campaign in those 60s and 70s. And I'm not going to say how I got to Appalshop, but there is a person here responsible for that, and she no longer wants to take credit for it.
I'll take credit.
Okay.
I'm Nyoka Hawkins. I grew up in Elkhorn City in Pike County. Moved away for several years and then got homesick, moved back to Kentucky when I was in my 30s and started trying to learn something about what had been going on while I was growing up here, because I didn't really know anything was happening. I had to go away to find that out. So I came back and started studying Appalachian history and doing family history work, and one thing led to another, and then I got involved with grassroots work with KFTC and different groups, and so that's what led me eventually to Appalshop. I actually heard about Appalshop in 1975 in New York, and it was like, where? You mean Whitesburg, Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky? And so I was a little slow to figure things out, but so I've been doing that work now for about 10 years. Live in Lexington now.
I'm Gertie Norman. I'm from Hazard, Kentucky originally. In the middle of 1960s, I was a newspaper reporter in Hazard. It was the best place in the whole country to be a news reporter in those days. And my work caused me to cover such things as the roving picket struggle, the beginnings of the war on poverty, and the beginnings of the anti-strip mine movement. And then after living in California for some years, I moved back to Kentucky. And in the meantime, I became friends with Guy and Candie Carawan, and have always admired their book, Voices from the Mountains, which is the text that has called us together here today, I think. And so I'm have always been a fan of the Carawans and of Appalshop and of this book. So I'm very glad to meet with everybody today.
My name's Jim Wrench. I'm from Charleston, West Virginia. I was here, East Kentucky, late 60s and 70s. I was a Vista is what brought me here. Actually, the Vietnam War brought me here too, but that's another story. And my connection with folks here is mostly through the things that were going on in those days, among which were some of the early welfare rights stuff, the Black Lung movement particularly, and the beginnings, at least in Kentucky, of the miners' reform movement. And I have a bunch of friends here, so I kind of keep up with Appalshop as time has gone by.
I'm Steve Brooks. I too joined Vista in '68 and worked in Floyd County for a couple of years as a Vista, and then was an Appalachian volunteer for a couple of years. Same type issues as Jim worked on. Then moved over across the border into Virginia in '75 and have been in the region ever since.
I'm Maxine Kenny, and I came to the mountains in 1970 to Floyd County to work with a group that Jim and Steve worked with, which was called Mountain Legal Rights and later Mountain People's Rights. It was the first legal services in the mountains. It was the forerunner to Appalachian Research and Defense Fund, AppleRed. And my main interest was working on health issues, and I worked a lot with welfare rights people on Mud Creek to help start a clinic there.
Banjo music. I grew up in Monroe County, Indiana, where a lot of Kentucky people settled down in the Depression. When they couldn't get work here, they went to the stone quarries in southern Indiana. I was interested in the Kentucky banjo tunes of Monroe County. And I came down here in the summer of '67 and walked up a lot of creek beds looking for banjo tunes. And I decided to come back here for the first time in 30 years, a month ago, not knowing anything about Seedtime in the Cumberland. And decided to come down here this particular weekend just because it seemed like a nice weekend, and lo and behold, my sister sent me a flyer of what was going on here, and so we were staying over at the motel for the week, and one of my interests this week is to try and find the record cutting machine that used to be up near Pine Mountain somewhere over there. In 1967, there was a family that cut their own 78 records in their living room. If anybody here remembers that, remembers the family, or knows what happened to the machine and all the stacks of records, they should be here now in Appalshop. I believe that machine should be dug out again, and the family should be remembered. I found some really good banjo players, and I learned a lot of good tunes, and I hope to present them here over the next couple of days.
My name is Glenn Ehrig. I was born and raised here in Whitesburg. As I travel around the world, I often hear the voices that Guy and Candie collected, and I come back to hear them and see them as often as possible.
Bates. I'm also a native, and I'm just here to talk about the book, which I like a lot.
My name is Ed Cabell. I'm from West Virginia, and I didn't come here with no AVs, nothing like that. My family's been around here since the 1830s. And you want something different to try, you can come up to West Virginia around Labor Day weekend. We still do the John Henry Festival. It's been 25 years. One of the few black festivals that's been in these mountains for these 25 years. And we still go on with it, and I'm actually here right now to support Guy and Candie. I've been knowing them about 20-some years. They're good people, and the book's the truth, and I believe in the truth. It's time for somebody to stand up for it.
I'm Joe Gregory. I'm here because I'm a survivor, and I appreciate that. I look around this room, I see a very few people that I knew 30 years ago, or about that, as radical people fighting for survival. I wanted to go the legal route, and did. I organized 300 people. I didn't think that was possible. I didn't know how to do it, but I did it with the help of the people that was in trouble. I appreciate Guy and Candie. They've been around a lot of times, so a lot of people. I'd like to see young people that would find out who Martin Luther King is, what this damn government's doing to people, and many other people that they need to know history. We don't know history, especially the history of Appalachia. I don't know about Gurney. Gurney probably knows it pretty well. But my thing is the legal route. We burned a lot of midnight oil. A lot of the people that I organized with is gone. I miss those people. They were good, honest, hard-working people. There was no greed there. When we was in the battles, it was a civil war. My family was divided. The people I worked for was against me. Some people was for you. It was a terrible thing to hold your head up and drive. But I figured it was one time around, and I wanted to take that route. I testified the county government, state government, and federal government. I was fortunate enough to go in the Oval Office in Washington. I really appreciated that. I'll never do that again. Very few people will. And anybody live in Washington's got a home there. I appreciate being here. I know a lot of people, a lot of good, dedicated people to the cause here. Appalshop people. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm lucky to be here. Thank you.
My name is Candie Carawan, and I'm just thrilled to see so many people here today. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I'm especially anxious to hear what people feel is going on today. A lot of these struggles that we started and helped with in the 60s are with us today, and I'm really hoping that part of our time today will be talking about where people see the energy to still work on these things and where the cultural energy is too to support them. A lot of the people that ended up in Voices from the Mountains we met through our work at the Highlander Center, and that's still a really important gathering place for people to come who are really in struggle, trying to survive in these times. So again, thank you so much, all of you, for coming out today, and let's really engage and talk about what's possible.
I'm Guy Carawan. I grew up out in Southern California, and so did Candie, where my folks had left the Carolinas way back, my father coming back from World War I, and met in a boarding house in Southern California. So I think I grew up out there listening to the Library of Congress field recordings of Pete Steele and banjo players, and had a lot of interest in the South, because all my Southern relatives on my father's side were in the coastal area of North Carolina, and they kept coming to visit. As my mother said, country bumpkins, poor white trash. She was a Charlestonian blue blood from South Carolina. When I got interested in the South, when I discovered the Library of Congress field recordings and heard all this incredible music from around this country, particularly the South, with its rich black music and its music from the mountains, and all this incredible Anglo ballads and banjo music and all that history. Then Pete Seeger came out with the Weavers to Ciro's, and they got canceled out. They were called Reds, and they had hit songs in this country. And I met Pete Seeger, says, "Have you heard of the Highlander Center? I was just about to do something, having a master's in sociology from UCLA. Sophia Horton had just died at Highlander, and I came to offered to try to do some cultural work there in the 60s. So we just lucked on and met Candie in 1960, and we worked together with Highlander cultural program during the Civil Rights period. We just stayed on there, and then another surge came in the late 60s when Appalachia began to fight and struggle around a lot of things, and developed their own Joe Begleys and Ed Cabells and other people to stand up for people's culture and their rights. And we've just been lucky to be around a lot of that through our work with the Highlander, and we've always loved getting to hear the music and know incredible people like Elaine Perky. and they're always out there, just incredible in this area, rich people, storytellers, singers, dancers, craftsmen, and we're pleased to be here.
Well, my name's Elaine Perky, and I actually got some of my earliest encouragement from Guy and Candie. The very first time I ever sang in public for the Union was in Castlewood, Virginia, and I wanted Guy to play behind me because I couldn't hit all the notes on the chords on the guitar. And he said, "You have a very strong guitar." I said, "Yeah, I'll break my pick too, you watch me." I mean, I really thumped those strings really hard. But he started playing with me, and then he backed off. And
you played a silver-haired daddy.
Silver-haired daddy of mine. You remember that?
I remember that, I do. Because I heard you later on. We got around in a big jam session at the end with Nimrod Workman. I listened to there a lot of people, and I heard this voice coming out of you, which was like from the bottom of a coal mine that was filling the valley.
We were doing I'll Fly Away. There was more music after, better music afterwards than there was in the whole program. But I'm down here because I knew Seedtime was coming up, and I called Jim and said, "Listen, can I stay at your house? I want to come down and see everybody and hear some of the music." But I was really, lately I've been at a really cultural energy low up home. I just did the Vandalia gathering, and that's good, but it's nothing like coming down here and being labor-oriented all over again. And one thing about it, when you get on that kind of low, Appalshop is there's good people at Appalshop. If you come here, you're always gonna hear good music and see good people, and if you don't meet any new people, you'll get to get reacquainted with the old people that you know, the old friends that you have, and that's just an energy high. And then to have it coupled with Guy and Candie, anywhere they go, there's gotta be good people around that you wanna meet and talk to, so that's why I'm here. I mean, the concert came second. He said, well, since you're coming down here, why don't you do a concert for us Thursday night? Be on the concert Thursday night. I said, okay, that's all right. But it's the people that I came for.
Well, I'm Fran Ansley, and I live down the road in Knoxville. I grew up in Atlanta and was a sort of young person coming along very much at the edges of the civil rights movement, and met Guy Carawan, who showed up at his lady's house with Julius Lester and taught a bunch of us how to sing Wade in the Water in the early 1960s. But anyway, now I've been in Knoxville now for a long time, and I teach at the university, but I'm taking next year off, and this is my present to myself that I'm going to have a different kind of life this year. To come away from home. My name is Sharon Foster, and we're here. This is the first time I've been to the complete festival, so we're observing, and we're from Bristol, Tennessee, and we've been just going crazy over the bluegrass and the storytelling that they've been having. Seems like more and more lately. So Paula is more acquainted with the Appalshop than I am. But we said, let's get up here and see what's going on, and we just like to get involved in everything. So we're just here. Take it all in.
I'm Powell Foster. Are we gonna get to hear Silver-Headed Daddy again tonight?
I don't know. I remember the words.
I first came here in the 1950s, and because of the mountains, and despite the fact my mother told me never to come down in this area of coal miners and other degenerates and so forth, I came for the mountains and really loved the mountains and got involved primarily in conservation issues here. I found out that I couldn't do it as a lone wolf when I proposed back in the 1960s some area for wilderness designation over in the mountains here to the east of us, and I had the forest ranger then immediately put bulldozers on to make sure it wasn't wilderness, got him reprimanded, and was told never to darken his door again after that. So that's when I organized the Sierra Club group. And speaking of continuity that Candie was talking about, we are still fighting the same issues with the same people, the same groups that we were back in the 1960s in the Constitution era. We're a little bit more sophisticated, I hope.
I'm Nancy Garrettson. I moved to the mountains as part of the Back to the Land movement, and I stayed in the mountains because they're beautiful and the people are wonderful. I'm an artist, I'm a weaver, and I'm constantly getting sources of inspiration from this wonderful area. And I've been coming to Appalshop for a long time, and it's always a wonderful place to be. And these are wonderful quilts around us. I'm getting all sorts of wonderful energy from them.
I'm Steve Fisher. Was born and raised in West Virginia, and then left for a while. Came back in the early 70s, and worked for a while on a newspaper called The Plow, and then did some work with the Appalachian Alliance and some other organizations in the mountains. And I just know whenever Guy and Candie are around, that some good things are going to happen. So I knew I had to be here today.
My name is Darlene Wilson, and I grew up, born and raised in Wise County, Virginia, just over the mountain. And I graduated from high school here back in 1968, and much like my friend Nyoka, was engaged in anything but being Appalachian, and was running as hard as I could get from everything that it meant to be from this region. So I can honestly say that I grew up in the midst of real denial. And one of the most often denied issues, problems, whatever we had, was this contradiction, this gaping contradiction between the documentary history and what I like to call the vernacular history. And unfortunately, though, it
took me about 15 years to get back to being who I was. I also had to get sober during that period. And part of my recovery was coming home and beginning to face up to who I was and why I ran so long and so hard away from being just who I was. And so over the last 10 years, this book became very important to me in its original edition because as I began to read about what had occurred in the 50s and the 60s and why I felt so removed from the civil rights movement and everything, I realized that the powers that be had wanted me to feel distance from that the separation was a forced one. So this book was very important because this was one of the first examples that I was able to point to say, yes, that's the vernacular history. You can have your documentary history. This is my history. This is what I grew up with. So in the last 10 years, I've become a student, and I consider it a blessing that I get to go to the University of Kentucky and stand up to professors and say, no, that's your history. That's not mine. And there's got to be some new history written, and I hope to be able to do that in the next few years.
My name is Ben Zickafus, and the reason I'm here is because I was sitting at my desk last week and read on the Appalshop website that they're going to give never-do-wells a chance to read poetry. So I said, damn, it's very, very, very seldom that never-do-wells have a chance to read poetry, so that's why I'm here.
Paul Cusco from over in Wise County, now living on a farm down in Lee County. And Ben basically called me and said he was going to come over and read poetry. And we grew up together and not seen each other much in 20 years. So I said, well, I'll come watch you read poetry. So it's happy to be here. It's always been one of my favorite books. It'd be nice to meet the authors and folks. Happy to be here.
My name's Melissa Campbell. This is my daughter Autumn. And we're here. We brought my father Ed here. And usually my dad says, I got to go somewhere. I didn't know what he was doing until I got here. And I didn't know that Guy and Candie would be here, and there's familiar faces. And my daughter and myself have been going to Highlander for 3 years, ever since she's been born, for about 3 years. But I've been going since I was a little girl with my father, who, and practically Guy, Candie, my father, and some of the people that he has met throughout the years, Pete Seeger and others like that. My daughter and I have been fortunate to be raised around such a diverse cultural awareness type program. This is just wonderful. And being here this morning, I was reading some of the brochures and things, and I noticed that the Appalshop has a lot to do with film and public broadcasting, that type of thing. I just graduated 2 Saturdays ago in a communications degree from college, of course. And that's an inspiration, so thank you for inviting me.
My name is Catherine South. I'm from West Virginia. We had our own cultural festival 2 weeks ago. Elaine was a performer, and Jim and Ann were there, and they invited my husband and myself to Seedtime. We've always been involved with community-based organizing and union activities since I'm a wife of a coal miner and daughter of a coal miner, so that's always been part of my background. And right now we're working with trying to make life better for some of the retired coal miners by giving them decent housing and making their lives a little bit better with what they have left. And it's nice to meet everybody.
My name is Mike South. I'm, as you can see, disabled with black lung disease. I'm currently the president of the National Black Lung Association. As you know, the black lung movement has been in effect since the late 60s, and we're still struggling today with some of the same strifes and struggles that occurred back then. I'm happy to be here at Appalshop. I actually had some artwork exhibited here about 4 years ago, and it's good to see everyone here.
My name is Roy Silver. I'm